everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, we're standing in front of a 1970s FJ40 plow truck that we pulled out of a junkyard several weeks ago. Honestly, the first time I saw this Landcruiser at a junkyard, I thought, that guy'd never sell it. Well, here we are. We brought his junk to my building just to devalue it, and we're gonna try to build it. I mean, when I say this thing is rough, it's real bad. But where it counts, I guess it's okay, like the front end. That's it. 0 floors, motors locked up. But I mean, come on. How many chances do you get to pull an old vehicle out of a junkyard and put it back on the road for a second chance? We're gonna try to do that with this truck and see where it takes us. I mean, honestly, I've never owned an FJ40 and driven one down the road, so why not just do this one? Couldn't have picked a better one? Like, you know, gone out west or something? But we're gonna try to save it anyways. I wasn't kidding. There is 0 floor left in this thing, probably from all the years of sitting on its frame rails in the junkyard. Definitely not from plowing snow and salt down the road. Couldn't be. You know, but the rest of it's there-ish. I mean, we got some jump seats, we got a somewhat of a dash, steering wheel still works. You know, basically brand new. Did I forget to mention that it's got the spider web option on the window sticker? Pretty sure the spiders are taking this 40 over like it's their own little New York City. It'll be fun. I mean, who needs some shelves to house some parts when you got a perfectly good FJ40 split hood to put things on? It's definitely not going to scratch the paint at all. Resale value, it's there. Feast your eyes on the Junkyard Dog 1F motor that is completely locked solid, mainly because all the things that, you know, don't need to have water get in them is opened up to the elements. I'm sure there is water inside that block, and we're just gonna pull that thing on out of there. We have a couple options that we can go with to make this go down the road pretty quickly. I'm thinking an FJ55 2F that we have, or an FJ60 2F. So depending on what I get out of a parts truck first, we'll go ahead and slap one of those into this vehicle and see if we can get her to roar back to life. Because I just wanna see her go down the road and not sit here like a lump on a log. Well, at least she rolls. We gotta clean this thing out with all the years of junkyard grime inside of it, start the process of really seeing what we have. I'm sitting here eating lunch, staring at this thing. I haven't laid a wrench on it in weeks after we cleaned it out. And I just thought that we should just pull the spark plugs, you know, see what was going on in each cylinder. So we went ahead and we did that. And to my amazement, there isn't any type of rust on any of these spark plugs. They actually look pretty decent. So we went ahead and put some penetrating oil down the cylinders. We pulled the starter so I can see the flywheel and get a little more leverage on it. And then we pulled the valve cover, and that's where I actually got to thinking on this thing that we might be able to break this thing free. Let me get that valve cover off real quick so you can see what's going on under there. After we pop off the valve cover, we were able to get a really good look at the valve train here, and there is absolutely zero rust down here. There is still oil in here in the galleys. I mean, that is absolutely unbelievable. So, I mean, I have a weird feeling that this motor was A, cared for, B, she has a chance at another life. We went ahead and got a dipstick from a parts motor because this one obviously didn't have one coming from the junkyard. And there is a little bit more fluid than you'd like to see on the stick, but it is oil and has viscosity. I mean, if we can get this thing broken free, distributor, put a carburetor on it, I bet she'll crank over. So that's the rough plan right now. Go ahead and pouring some Marvel Mixture Oil down the cylinders, as well as going ahead and putting some PB Blaster in there. See if we can get some type of lubrication. I mean, that'd be amazing for this thing to sit for a couple days and be able to turn over again. Let's find out if letting this thing soak for as long as I did actually did anything. We got a bar as long as the front end here, and we're gonna see if we can get this thing to wiggle a little bit. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. Nope, nothing. That's such a bummer, man. Well, gosh, after weeks of work to try to get this thing unlocked, I'm excited to tell everybody I moved it to a new spot. And the motor is still extremely locked up. So we're gonna pull the top end off despite really wanting to and, you know, wasting more of my time to see if we can pound on the number 4 cylinder, because I think that's the one that's stuck, to see if we can get this thing loose one more time before we swap out the motor. I just thought it would be so flippin' cool to get this thing to run and drive on its junkyard motor, but sometimes it's the way the world works. So let's get started by ripping that head off. Just as I thought, the cylinder walls actually look pretty decent for sitting in a junkyard, but definitely number 4 is the crustiest and has all of that PB Blaster and any other concoction I was putting in there. Everything else seems like it's got good wear. Number 3 doesn't look great either, but I mean, if we can get this broken free, I bet this thing will turn over. Well, I've been hammering and banging on all these old cylinders, And I don't really have much to show for it, but I do have a little bit, the slightest bit of movement here on the crank, which tells me that the more we work it, the more that the rust in there will come free. It makes sense that this is the worst one because the intake with the carburetor sits about right here and it was open to the air. So in return, air mixed with the metal starts to rust that cylinder. So if we can get that broken free, I think that we'll be able to get this thing to turn over. Just continued work with the old hammer blows. I have pounded and pounded and pounded on these old pistons, and finally I settled on putting a whole bunch of diesel into the cylinders to see if that will break down any of the rust from the rings into the cylinder walls. I've tried back and forth with this large ratchet here on the crank pulley, and it just doesn't want to turn over. It's moving slightly, but I really can't tell if my eyes are playing tricks on me. So we're gonna let this sit for a little bit and see if we can get a little more movement here in a couple days. We let the motor sit for about 2 or 3 days, and we have diesel in number 2 and we had diesel in number 4 when we came back. Everything else had gone past the rings into the oil pan, which meant those were our stuck holes. We've been pounding on them with wood and a chunk of pipe, and we finally got it to break free slightly. It's not enough that I can actually put a wrench on the crank and turn it over, but I drew a line here on the crank and it's moved slightly. It's just a matter of just keep on hammering on it. This cylinder was almost at the top when we started and we broke it free, and I'm waiting to see what happens with this guy. Overall, we are making progress, and that is really exciting. Y'all are not gonna believe this. We finally got this thing broken free. We're over here, as you can see, we got it unlocked. I cannot believe it. She's spinning over. And she's got a little bit of a tough spot, which you can hear, but it's turning over, which means we probably can get this engine to run. That is unbelievable news. We're gonna keep on working it through the revolutions of the motor, but that's exciting news. Let's keep on keeping on. I've gone ahead and let oil sit in this overnight, but I'm still having a hard time with the cylinders wanting to move super smoothly. It still takes a large pull to get them to move, and even then, they don't wanna move. And that could be maybe bottom end or something, but I'm gonna try to hone out the cylinders a little bit with the tool I got at AutoZone. I think number 4 and number 2 still are issues. There is a little bit of rust here. I used a little scrub pad here to try to get those cylinders a little nicer, and it did clean them up, but I think that this is gonna be our best option to try to get this to smoothly move. I can't believe I'm saying it, but she is finally making full revolutions on the battery. She's not going anywhere fast, but that is amazing. From a locked up motor to this thing's gonna run. I'm just hoping that the bottom end is in good shape and that old feller is also in decent shape. Motor's turning over, silky smooth now. I wanna go ahead and address the oil pump. We certainly don't want to do any more work to this engine if the oil is not coming up to the top of the motor. Obviously we don't have the head on there. I want to go ahead and buy a gasket kit to put the head gasket back on, but we're going to go ahead and put a distributor in here. Nothing special, just going to pull one off the shelf, get it in there, spin the motor over so it turns the oil pump, and see if we're getting oil out of here. Just going to pull a distributor, anyone works, right off the shelf. We'll probably be going to a points one. We already have our oil pump turned down there, cleaned up the bore here in the hole. We brought the cylinder up to top dead center there, and we're just gonna go ahead and drop this guy in there. So, of seeing if we get oil out of here. Let's go ahead and turn it over, see what happens. See there is definitely oil getting to the top of the motor that isn't there right now. So that's a good enough sign for me to go ahead and buy an entire gasket kit, including the head gasket for this motor. There's a ton of other stuff we're gonna need to address. The water pump, it's locked up. One of the motor mounts is broken. All this stuff we're going to address once we get this motor running, once and if. So I'm gonna go ahead and put an order for that stuff, and we'll see you back in about a week. Oh yeah? A Rock Auto Box came? Holy smokes. We can finish putting that motor back together. Man, maybe we could use any bigger box? Man. As you can see, the head is all cleaned here. We had to get that old gasket that was really stuck on there off. You can see here the gasket material kind of came off and peeled off on the head. We cleaned it off with a razor blade. It's all smooth and ready to go. We did go ahead and make sure that all our valves are moving, cleaned out the chambers there, and now we're ready to slap this thing back on the motor. Got our fresh head gasket there. Gonna get everything torqued down, and we'll keep the progress moving here. See if we can get this thing started. The head is back on the block, as you can see. Had a little trouble because I totally forgot there's a little oiling line that comes from the block that goes right through the head. So we just jammed the head back down on the block, and this wouldn't let the head seat because it had crunched over. So don't be like me when you're working on 1F, and remember that this oil line comes up to the rockers to get oil up there. Now we're going to go ahead and just tighten down all these head bolts lightly, and then we're going to torque them down to about 75, 85 foot-pounds of torque from the inside bolt to the outside of the head. Once that's all done, we can start moving on to get an ignition system, compression, so on and so forth. We're gonna go ahead and check for compression here. Let's see what she's got. Definitely got a little compression in number 1. Number 2. Number 2 has compression. Number 3 does. 4. 5. And number 6. Compression across the board in all 6 cylinders means that this thing is definitely gonna run. We just gotta get the rest of this thing put back together, you know? We're testing for spark here. Our coil that came with the truck, I was really hoping it would work, but it's no good. I have another coil here. We have it hot wired to another distributor that we put in here that I bench tested, and I know it works. So let's see if we're getting some spark right there. Definitely getting some spark there. Coil's all set up. We have a cap and 1 spark plug to our number 1 here. Let's see if we're getting spark on that spark plug. Yes, sir. Got some spark. We just need to get a carburetor, get spark plugs in here, and some fuel. What's crazy is these are the spark plugs that were in the truck from the junkyard, and they're still working. As you saw, we were getting spark at the number 1. So we're just gonna go ahead and slap them in. The goal here is to use as much stuff from this motor to get it to run that we found it in the junkyard with. We found a carburetor here in the barn. We're gonna go ahead and see if that will do anything for us. Here we go. Not happening today. I'm out of battery. We're back. We have a charged battery, and we are going to seriously put some time into getting this thing to run. We gotta see her pop off. That would make all this work the last couple weeks feel actually worth it. We are running a carburetor I just pulled out of storage. Not really sure anything about it. So until we hear it pop off or do something, I'm not gonna be switching any main components for better ones. So let's get started. She ain't spinning fast enough. Play around with the choke here. See if the choke being closed in the carburetor will help. It's not set up correctly, but we'll see. Starter might be done. I think my starter is finished. She's not having it anymore. Not good. Nothing, everyone. Just fire off one time. That's all I ask. Here we go. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. That's fine. It's all good. I mean, it ran, sort of, on the starter. It freaking started. Absolutely amazing. Carburetor is running like garbage, so we went and got one out of part storage. This one is in exceptionally good shape. Just came off a 60 series that went to a Weber swap. So we're gonna get this thing off here and see if that helps the running a little bit. Of any YouTube video, but the most important part of any car build, and that is the oil change clip, because we still have all that garbage that we used to break the motor free in there that we were cranking on it, you know, the mystery oil, the diesel fuel, the ATF, you know, the whole thing. So let's get that on out of here and continue cranking on this thing. Yep. So awesome. There was so much stuff down there. It's all over the ground now because it overflowed. So now that Junkyard 40 is running pretty good, we're gonna refocus our attention to this lovely creature of a 40 series right here. You may be thinking, why aren't you building this one? This one looks nice. Well, the motor's locked up, frame is even worse than the Junkyard one, and that body is gonna be for another project. But it does have some really good parts, and what I mean by that It's got a complete wiring harness, a complete motor, which I mentioned is locked up, but it has all of the components to get that truck going down the road. So we're gonna start pulling stuff off this 40 to get that one doing something, because I'm sick and tired of pushing these things out of the barn without them running. Well, the guys at Rock Auto, they came through again. I mean, go figure. We got our slave and our master straight from Rock Auto. See if this old junkyard truck will move for the first time in who knows how long. I know, you're probably thinking, aren't you supposed to be putting the motor stuff on? Well, I didn't want to invest the time in doing that until we can see that it moves and it doesn't need a clutch and everything else. So we're gonna dive under there together and get some rust in our eyes and pray this thing actually moves back and forth. Probably not. We're gonna be on our backs pulling a transmission. But Rock Auto came through. Sweet. We've been battling this slave for a very long time. Actually, everything down the bottom of this truck is really rusty, especially this bolt that broke off. Go figure, broke off while I was getting rust in my eye, but we heated it up because I really didn't want to change the line because I'm gonna break the hard line probably that runs to it. We finally broke it off with a lot of heat, penetrating oil, and it's got an interesting little setup here that is for the linkage that goes to the column shift. So the column shift linkage right here, it rides on there and shifts it into reverse and first. That's what this one is. This side, which we broke, is what holds the master on there. This is seized. We did find another one in storage, which I pulled apart to throw a little bit more of a visual in. It sits on the transmission ear that goes to the frame. And this is another master or slave that runs to obviously the hose. It sits in there, bolts down to the mount, and goes through and rides on there, which it should come out easily, and it just seizes. So we sat under there for a very long time trying to get that undone. But we got it, even though we broke stuff. Before we go and install the new slave, I'm gonna put some fluid in the master here, and I wanna see if she leaks down to the hose here. And that would give us an idea of one, if we are gonna have a clutch when we go to use it, and if this rubber line is collapsed inside or not doing well. As you can see, it's got a little fluid coming out of it, and that is a great sign to me. We're gonna go ahead and pop that slave on there and keep it moving. Guess what? We got a clutch pedal. Working exactly the way it should. Just praying that clutch is not locked up. Believe it or not, the fuel pump on this junkyard motor actually works. I cannot believe I'm saying that. There we're putting a little bit of a gas tank, and I say that lightly because it's just a bottle with some gas. See if we can get this thing to move just slightly back and forth on the new clutch that we put together. Well, I'll call that a win. Should move back and forth. Unfreaking real. Great news. I just gotta figure out how to drive this thing on out of here. This old FJ40 is almost ready to drive on out of the barn. Off camera, we made an accelerator pedal and cable work with the carburetor. This is a 62 accelerator cable going over to a little bracket that we made coming off the valve cover to work the carburetor linkage there. You may be wondering, what kind of bracket is that? Well, I use it quite a bit. It comes off the heater core and heater box of an FJ60 under the dash here. Here's an example of that. I'm not really sure why I like using that. Maybe because it can be manipulated into doing stuff like what we're doing here with the carburetor linkage. A lot of things came back around on this truck. One of them is the brakes are not working. So that just involves more work that we are just gonna have to throw at this thing. I really don't wanna take the brakes apart. But we're gonna try to drive it anyways. All I'm gonna say is, I don't think that this Landcruiser ever thought it would move again, let alone drive, start, and do the stuff that Landcruisers are meant to do. It has no business doing that, if I'm completely honest. It barely runs, it's running on a small bottle of gas. The brakes don't work, the clutch is the best dang thing. There's no floor, the seat's screwed in with sheet metal screws into any sheet metal that I could find, and trust me, there's not a lot. But we're gonna try to move this thing on out of here and maybe take it for a short drive. Who knows? I mean, there's no cooling system, there's nothing. Really, we just gotta figure out if she will drive. So let's jump in this thing and see what happens. Well, all I gotta say is we moved it further than we ever thought we could, pulling this thing out of the junkyard. But if you didn't hear the last clip, the throw-up bearing is shot from what it sounds like, and it's not doing the clutch things anymore. Go figure. I mean, look at the rest of this truck. I can't believe it made it that far. But we did drive it. We did get it running. If you like this type of stuff, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, share, and subscribe to the channel. What should we do with this thing? Should we take it wheeling? Keep working on it? Body swap it? Jump it off a cliff? You tell me. It's up to you guys on what we do with this truck. Leave a comment below, and we'll see you next time. Kidding, she lives again. The transfer case is in neutral. See you next time.